Welcome to Plastic Model Mojo, a podcast dedicated to scale modeling, as well as the news and events around the hobby. Let's join Mike and Kentucky Dave as they strive to be informative, entertaining, and help you keep your modeling mojo alive.
Well, Dave, we're into January.
Yes, we are.
Episode 107, folks. We are chipping away at our first 10% of our second 100.
That's right.
It's one way to look at it.
Sounds good to me.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I had right as a matter of fact, on New Year's Day, a second round of flu, which is unusual for me in that I generally don't get sick, but once every couple of years.
Your number was up, man.
I know. So to have two bouts of the flu within 2.5, 3 months of each other was disheartening. It also had an effect on my model sphere. It kept me away from the bench right when I hoped to hit the ground running, because I had New Year's Day all cleared out for football and modeling. And so it was a little disappointing, but I used my time well. I did some modeling related reading, trying to get caught up on my reading and also kind of get the juices flowing as far as inspiration for the coming year. I had some modeling money to spend that I had not completely spent when we talked previously. So I did some of that, and we'll talk about that later. And then kind of both modeling-wise and Plastic Model Mojo-wise, planned on what 2024 was going to look like. And got a lot of good, solid plans, both for the podcast and for my personal modeling ideas. So all in all, not a bad start, though not the start I wanted. How about you?
My model sphere's not been too bad. I did get some modeling done, not a whole lot over the holidays, but some. Kind of back at it again. We'll talk about that later. But like you, it's 2024. We got some things we're talking about for the podcast for 2024, and I've really been digging into those. There's some things I'm trying to get plugged into to make those more possible here in the month of January. And as far as modeling goes, I really haven't thought much past like getting the Moose Roo Cup done and stuff like that. I've got a couple more I'm working on. We'll talk about those too, but I haven't made any, what I want to start next kind of plans, or how many I think I want to try to finish, or any of that. So just haven't done it yet. I probably will, but haven't done it yet.
Well, unlike you, I have the entire 2024 campaign planned in my head. All the models I want to finish, in what order, what I'm going to do, which kits, everything, all worked out in my head. So we'll see if it works out, but I've actually gone to that level of planning.
Wow, good for you. I probably will at some point, but I got some other things to worry about in the near term.
Yep. So since you're recording, I'm assuming that you are enjoying a fine modeling fluid.
I am. I'm finishing up the Russell's Reserve 10-year that I got a few days before Christmas.
Okay. We know how that's going to turn out.
It's going to turn out good, but we'll talk about it at the end. What about you, my friend? What are you working on?
You know that I generally try and have something new and different each time. And in this case, I actually am drinking a beer that's one of my regulars. But the new part is, I'll explain. I'm drinking Voodoo Ranger Imperial IPA, but my oldest daughter got me for Christmas something called frozen beer straws. And what they are is, I prefer to drink beer out of a bottle as opposed to a can or a glass. And what these are is aluminum items with a rubber stopper top that you keep in your freezer and you can pop down into a freshly opened warm beer. And because it's been in the freezer, it moderates the temperature of a warm beer. So it seems to be working so far. This is my first test of it. It doesn't leak at the top, which was, of course, one of the concerns. And I don't like my beer too cold. So this is kind of a nice compromise to take a warm beer and to drop this frozen beer straw in it.
We'll post a picture somewhere.
I will post a picture, and I'll let you know how it works as we get through the episode. But
the first thought that came to mind was you're actually drinking through it, external to the bottle.
No.
That'd be a bad look.
That would be a bad look. That's right.
And it also reminded me of a I can't remember the name of the show off the top of my head. It had Schneider, the maintenance man, and Valley Bertinelli.
One Day at a Time.
One Day at a Time.
How can you not remember that?
Because I was a little kid, man. Valley Bertinelli's character had some dude over at the house for a date, and he asked for a beer, and she goes and gets one and brings it to him with ice in it.
Hey,
I don't know why. I don't know why I remember that, but I do.
I know why you remember that, because you had a crush on Valerie Bertinelli just like I did. Come on, well, let's be real.
Let's move along.
Yes.
Folks will remember we kind of dodged listener mail to kind of keep last episode a little shorter for us because we were dragging tail coming out of the holidays. That's why.
Yes, we were.
But we're going to get caught up tonight, folks.
Yep.
And it's going to be quite a bit.
Good.
And there's some good stuff.
Yep.
And the first one's good right out of the chute, Dave. We're going to start off with Thomas Karen from Kearns, Utah. First off, he says he enjoyed the episode with Stephen Lee. That's been 2 episodes ago. Maybe 3. 2 at least. He's got a question for us, though.
Okay.
His model room doesn't have an exterior wall.
Okay.
So he cannot vent a spray booth to an exterior wall directly from the room.
Okay.
And he's wanting to buy one of these paste spray booths, which are kind of the Cadillacs of the American-made, North American available airbrush booths. Good one. It's a good thing. And he's also looked into the waterfall types, which I've seen those. I don't know. I'm not sold that those aren't. Those seem a little gimmicky to me. Maybe they're good. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I understand the principle, but that's neither here nor there. But he was thinking about, since he sprays mostly acrylics and only the occasional enamel, about venting straight to the attic. And we'd like our suggestions and opinions. Also, from any of the listeners who might chime in later after the fact, either by future emails or Facebook messages. I don't know, man. My first question is he on the ground floor?
Right.
And if he is, there's 2 options other than just dumping the stuff into the attic. Now, it wasn't all that long ago. Well, maybe it was, and I just don't remember. Even some bathrooms and showers would just vent to the attic space.
Right.
It's kind of back before mold. It's kind of a concern to people. Fumes are different. And I don't know if you can't go directly to an exterior wall, but you can go up into the attic space, depending on the height above the rafters to the ceiling. And you could probably take an angle once you got through the floor joist to get to a lower spot on the roof, but you could put a roof pipe in.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Or another option would be, and I'm assuming that I don't know. You've got a pace. I don't know how good the blower is. I assume it's excellent.
It is. It's a top-notch blower. Moves a lot of air.
So if you were to get some of the height out of it by creating like a standing height spray station, so that'll already get it like 4.5 feet off the ground, probably.
Yep,
maybe 5, depending on how tall you are. And then turn toward the exterior of the house and then drop it through one of the soffit vents would be another way to do it. That way you would have to cut a hole in your roof, and the blower's good enough that you might get away with just 1 90-degree turn to go horizontal once you get through, clear the floor joist and over to the soffit vent.
Yep.
And that would just keep it from accumulating in the attic.
Yep.
What do you think?
One other alternative I can think of, and this is if you're spraying acrylics only, or the vast majority of acrylics, you could vent to a box. You could run a tube into a box with baffles in it to catch the particulate matter that
Yeah.
would. Now, there are lots of problems with that. A, it's not as good. B, it's really not as good if you're using anything that's a volatile organic chemical. Additionally, you would have to change out the material quite often in order for it to remain effective. But I would think that in almost any house, there is a way to vent to the exterior. And in fact, there are companies that do this, that this is what they do. Now, mostly it's done for the purposes of dryer vents, but the same rules apply, and you can hire those companies to come in and relatively inexpensively, believe it or not, run you a vent.
Yeah, I'm kind of liking the soffit idea, unless somebody out there can figure out a reason to not do it that way. Because if you could get right over top of one of those vents in the soffit, you wouldn't need to cut any more holes in your house.
Absolutely true.
That would probably be adequate enough.
Well, I'll be interested to see what the listeners come up with.
IPMS Las Vegas, Jay Burgeon, from his email address, looks like he's maybe the raffle chairman for the Las Vegas Club.
Always a fun job.
Well, this is a little early because I think this show's in May.
Okay.
Best of the West model show.
Man, everybody I know who's gone to that show really loves it.
Well, we'll file this under F for future.
Yep.
And hit that again a little closer to the time. Steve Anderson, Matamida, Minnesota, says this one's short and sweet for me, Dave. He is sending this for one reason and one reason only. In episode 104, moving to the country and eating a lot of peaches, when you're talking about your peach beer.
Uh-huh.
From the early 90s band, Presidents of the United States of America. The song's called Peaches. Bob Bear got it, too.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Who happens to be next? Bob Bear voices Bob, Charlotte, North Carolina. He says he really loved the interview with Chris, the Uber history teacher.
Yeah.
Says that's a passion in teaching that isn't always there.
Yep. Absolutely.
I understand that. I had a few of those.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. For every one great teacher you had several that you can remember because they weren't so great.
Well, Bob really likes history, and he likes it so much that he is taking courses in history for a second degree.
Oh, nice.
At University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Why? Because he loves history.
You are never too young. Never stop learning.
That's true. And that's what he says, because he loves history. Now, he says he likes to sit in the back of the class so he can watch all the students for entertainment, because he's at his 3,000 level courses, which are probably junior level courses, I think. And he can just see by looking forward in the classroom who's digging the subject matter and who are there for their credit hours, because those folks are playing chess on their laptops.
Yep.
Well, he wishes Chris the best luck and look forward to seeing some of his students as history experts in the future. Scott Huber is next, and he's from State College, Pennsylvania. He's a former Lexingtonian, Dave.
Oh, okay.
He found he sees we're in the Woodford Reserve geography, especially me. It's not too far from the house, actually.
Yep.
And he had picked that up when he would live in Lexington or be in Lexington. And last week he found a recommendation for Woodford Reserve Double Oaked.
Oh, yeah. Double oak is almost always a really great bourbon.
Yeah. So that's the one we had in Omaha.
Yes, you're right. We did.
The one Steve Hustad gave us that, didn't he?
Oh, it might have been Steve. Steve, if you're listening, see if you remember what you gave us in Omaha, but it may well have been Steve.
Now, young Evan thought it tasted like gasoline.
But yeah, Evan, he's Canadian. He's young and he's Canadian. What does he know?
Oh, we got two listener mails from Lee Edmonds. Now he's in Australia. So this one was dated the 17th of December and the other one the 31st. So one was before we had Paul Gloucester on. The other one was after. The first one has 2 points. And I guess in the episode that ran up to December 17th, you'd mentioned there was going to be another Kit of the Blosh 210.
Yes, there is. As you're from.
And he's been sitting on the old Heller kit for donkey's years and was feeling rather privileged to even have it.
So have I. I've got one too.
But he says, on the other hand, it might be nice to have one that actually builds up well.
I'm almost positive it's going to build better than the Heller kit.
That's almost guaranteed. Almost. Well, you must have mentioned that in the episode with the history teacher, Chris, because he loved that episode. A lot of people did. We got a lot of feedback on that episode.
Extremely popular episode. I think because of how inspirational it was.
And then he also enjoyed the video that Chris put up because it explained a lot about what he's actually doing.
Yes.
You could actually see the kits or the models hanging. You can see what he'd done to the ceiling of his room. He does wonder how he gets them down to show them when those segments come up that he needs folks to have a closer look. But Lee was also a teacher at one time, and he said it was at university, and they didn't have the luxury of having their own rooms. They were just using common rooms.
Sure.
And like most professors do.
Right.
Get a room assigned for a class, and it just gets sorted out at the beginning of the year typically. So he couldn't do what Chris does, and we'll have to put this link in the show notes. He does also use models to talk history, and he's got a website where you can check this out if you want. It's thelittleaviationmuseum.au. So it's the littleaviationmuseum.au, and the Little Aviation Museum is all one word. I think that if I remember right, they're like broken up into decades, and he's got a whole slate of models showing what's going on like in the 20s and the 30s and so forth. So folks, check it out. So somebody else using models for education. Well, when he came back on the 31st and sent us a second email, Lee saying it's a small world because not only were we talking to an Australian, we were talking to one who has made the High Plains Windshield, and he was thinking this was serendipitous because while he was listening to Paul Gloucester on our podcast, he was doing battle with his own High Plains Windshield.
Listen, that is amazing to me that anybody gets that kit built up.
Well, I've not seen it. Maybe I should not.
Go online and take a look. You'll be mortified.
He's also doing things for the same reason that Paul is. He's trying to build all the A-series aircraft. And he saw Paul's Avro 504s on Facebook and listened to him talk about those. And now those are on the back of his queue. That's interesting. He's building the same kit Paul was at the same time.
Yep.
Now, he's got some others on here. Paul mentioned the, CA-15, the CAC Woomera. Or
right.
Woomera. Right. And that being unavailable. And he's right. There's not one right now. But on the secondhand market, there's an old CMR kit of the CA-15.
Yep.
And he says last year's Southern Sky models released, I guess they have a Croco models line, was the CA-11 Woomera in 72nd scale as well. And he thinks after the windshield, those kits will be a breeze.
Oh, I'm sure they will. I think after the windshield, anything will be a breeze.
Well, thanks, Lee. And maybe you and Paul can cross paths and hash out how these builds are going. That'd be a good thing to do.
Yeah, I'm sure at some Australian contest you got to cross paths.
Well, Lee says he'll pop some pictures of the Neptune and the CA-15 on the dojo page, and that's probably how that connection will happen.
Yeah, please do. Please do. Listen, we're getting more and more folks on the dojo page, and there is nothing better than seeing something, particularly something you've never seen built before, or something in a particular set of markings or camo that you've never seen before. So please do.
Next is Doc Tate, and he says he's in Winterpeg, Canada.
Winterpeg.
Maybe it's a real place.
Okay.
Or it's a play on Winnipeg.
I think it's a play on Winnipeg would be my bet.
Yeah, my Canadian geography is limited at best.
That's right.
He's been airbrushing for almost 40 years and came across our site a while back. I guess it's old dog, new tricks after listening to Dr. Strainbrush episodes. He's found that and John's website to be a useful place to go get information to help him do his own airbrush teaching and coaching up there in Winterpeg, Canada.
You are never too old to learn something new. There is nobody out there who has done everything, who has tried every technique. We've all got something to learn from each other if we're open to it.
That is true. Up next, Dave's one from my hometown, Johnson City, Tennessee, Mr. Nick Woodside.
All right.
So there we go. That's close to home.
Yes, it is.
And not only is it from my hometown, he thought we would be interested to know that Dr. Griffith at Science Hill High School, which is where I graduated high school from, had models hanging from his ceiling. And he remembers a bunch of Revell 48 scale bombers and a few fighters. But it's been a few years. Well, it's been a lot fewer than me because he's class of 2005 and I was class of 86.
You children.
I don't... there was no Dr. Griffith at Science Hill when I was there. There was a Mr. Griffith that taught civics at the junior high, but... Interesting. So there's another one who actually had some models in the classroom.
Yep. Anything to get the kids interested and inspired, man.
That's right. Well, that's cool. He's from my hometown. Another show, Dave. This one's a little closer in time anyway. In fact, it's coming up. Mid-Michigan Model Makers. Mr. David Mason of the Mid-Michigan Model Makers says everybody's invited to their 39th annual contest and show on February 3rd, 2024.
A February show in Michigan. Woo!
Mid-Michigan.
Man, that's... Of course, those people are all used to whatever weather might show up, I'm sure.
I think if they can get there, they're going.
Yep. I don't blame them.
New, larger facility with more vendors.
All right.
Last year, they had 500 models on the table. And, of course, more categories and more fun.
Sounds great.
If you can cross the frozen tundra of mid-Michigan on February 3rd and attend this show, check it out. Well, Dave, this is one we talked a little bit about before last week concluded.
Yep.
This is from Mark Doremus there in the greater Seattle area.
Yep.
And he would like to thank us for episode 106, not for the content necessarily, but for the escapism it provided to make short of the email. He was listening to it from a hotel room, but not from some exotic overseas location, but one only 4 miles from his home because he's been displaced this winter by a small house fire in his home that has, rendered the entire house unlivable.
Yeah,
I know he doesn't elaborate, but he appreciated the show for the escapism from the gritty reality was the true comfort. So, Mark, we always appreciate your emails, and hopefully get that turned around expeditiously as possible. I know my brother had the same situation, and it's not so much the fire; it's the putting out of the fire that probably does the most damage.
Yes, it does, and the rehab process, even if it's 100% smooth, is just tough to go through. So our thoughts are with you, Mark.
Hector Colon from the Butch O'Hare Model Club up in Chicagoland, Dave.
Yep.
He's got a lunch stop for us.
Okay.
When we're driving through Illinois, do yourself a favor. Find a Portillo's or Portillo's, probably Portillo's if it's Italian, and order the following: an Italian beef, a Chicago-style hot dog, and a chocolate cake shake. You will thank me later, and he hopes to see us there.
That sounds good. Well, hey, one of our goals is to get up to MMSI. Maybe we'll be able to stop at a Portillo's on the way.
We'll be the guys asking for Rolaids.
That's right. That's right.
This one's timely and good too, Dave. It's from Eric Kinser in Menlo Park, California. I'm thrilled you opted for tasteful designs for the Plastic Model Mojo t-shirt that I just received. Well, you're welcome for that, and I'm glad to hear from somebody who's actually bought one, for the fact that they actually bought it, and to know that they're not like factory threadbare like some of these cheap print-on-demand shirts can be. So thank you for supporting the show through that venue, Eric. We really appreciate it. Better get yourself warmed up, Dave. I got a couple more here and I'm done.
Okay, I'm ready when you are.
Rock Rozak from Detail and Scale.
Yes.
Now, he's in Blacksburg, Virginia, if I'm not mistaken.
He is.
They got a new book.
Yes, they do.
A6 Intruder. Now, this is a follow-on. It's from their Color and Marking series, Volume 7 of the Color and Marking series. Based on that, I assume, I do not know, you may, that they obviously have at least one other Intruder book.
Yes, they do. A Detail and Scale on the Intruder as well.
This one covers U.S. Marine Corps service and Navy Test and Evaluation Squadrons.
You got to love a Marine Sky Pig.
There you go. A6 Intruder.
Yep.
Go downtown, man. Things will be great when you're downtown.
Okay, Miss Clark.
And finally, Michael Karnauka from New York City, Dave.
All right. What's Michael ask?
Well, I got to ask. He didn't send us one in the new year. So, Michael, are you punting on this for 2024? It's all right if you are, because you've certainly done this, gosh, if not 2 years, it's 18 months worth of these things.
Yep.
We do appreciate it. But his question this time, Dave, and I like this one too. My question is a bit silly this week. It's really not. If Netflix or another streaming platform were to do a multi-part series about something concerning the history of scale modeling, would you watch it? What should the focus be? manufacturer's history, the lives of the average scale modeler, the history of the organizations that have sprung up around the hobby, standalone or multi-part series on, quote unquote, scale modeling personalities. What do you think?
I would watch a multi-part series on the history of scale models and the rise of scale model manufacturing, starting back with Frog and Monogram and Revell and Hawk and all that, and tracing the development through to the present day and CAD and 3D print and all that. That would be really interesting. As everybody knows who's listened to this podcast for any period of time, there's a part of me that geeks out over the business side of scale modeling. What the financials are, what the changes in manufacturing have been, how subjects are chosen, et cetera, et cetera. I find all that back end stuff that I suspect a lot of scale modelers have no interest in. I find it endlessly fascinating because I'm a free market guy, and I love the details, learning the details of how a particular business works from the back end, and getting to see it in ways, because it's always stuff that you would never think that end up influencing how things are done and what's done, etc. So I would watch that. Yes. How about you?
I think I would too. And I would like to also see, even though with the industry background I've got in product development, I kind of know a lot of it already, but it would be fun to watch it for something like a scale model kit. I would like to see the final selection of a subject, something about the research phase, and then the 3D modeling, and then the tool cutting, and then the test shot and test builds, and then the final marketing. I think that'd be kind of cool.
That would, yeah. There's a I forget what channel has it, but there's a series of how it's made.
Yeah.
And one on injection molded plastic model kits would be awesome.
Now, you might remember back in the 80s, there was the Adventures in Scale Modeling on PBS.
Right. But that was kind of different. That was how to build models,
right?
Type stuff.
That was so a little different, but it's at least on the subject matter, there's an existence theorem out there. Now, that was PBS, where kind of anything goes sometimes. For something like Netflix, it'd have to be a fairly serious endeavor.
It could be.
But no, that'd be kind of cool. So somebody out there in TV production land, maybe I ought to give that a little consideration.
That would be good.
Well, Kentucky Dave, that is all I've got.
All right.
Email side of things, and that was quite a bit. So thanks for bearing with me, folks. And those who wrote in, thanks for tolerating our delay over the holidays. And it wasn't so bad. 12-13 is not too bad. We like to read them anyway. It's fun.
Well, Mike, we've got a lot of DMs over Facebook Messenger, and I'm going to cut through them as quickly as I can. Mike Halliday, one of our Hawkeye listeners, and by Hawkeye I mean, of course, the great state of Iowa, DM'd me actually today on recording day, because recording day is also the day that Airfix released their announcements for new kits for 2024. One of the things they announced was a new B24. Now, it's not a D model. It's not my favorite, but we're going to get a new Airfix B24H in 72nd scale from Airfix. And again, not my favorite. I'd rather have a Privateer. There are a couple other kits I'd rather have seen announced, but you know what? I'm going to end up buying one. There's no question I'm going to end up with one. And he contacted me to make sure that I knew that the Airfix release announcement was out. Our good friend Evan McCallum DM'd me because he wasn't having any problem with our merch store, but one of his listeners was having a problem with our merch store, a listener of his over in Germany. So we're working to solve that problem. If any of you out there, if any of you listeners do have a problem with the merch store and ordering items, please to reach out to Mike or I through email or DMs. We can figure out a workaround to solve the problem. So I appreciate Evan doing that. Charles Rice from South Carolina sent me a funny lawyer joke cartoon. I pointed out to Charles that I probably know every lawyer joke that has ever been written. But by the same token, I always appreciate good humor poking fun at lawyers, so I was happy to see that. Julian Fisher Lamon, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, who I believe is in Lexington with you.
I think so.
He had DM'd me to let me know that Revell Germany had announced that they were re-releasing the Arado 240, the BV 222, might have been the JU 290. I'm not sure what the third one was, but 3 of the kits had been out of the Revell Germany range for a while that people were really kind of wanting to see come back. And so for 2024, we're getting those back. He also pointed me in the direction of a 3D print conversion for the BV 222 kit, which I frankly did not know existed, and does show the versatility of 3D printing and why I think 3D printing is going to have a really, really big impact on our hobby. And I appreciate him reaching out and letting me know those things.
Well, I think it's gone beyond going to have. We're in the middle of it having.
Oh yeah, we are. That is right. We are in the middle of it happening. And it's one of those things where it's so revolutionary. I'm not sure that those of us who are experiencing it really realize how revolutionary it's ultimately going to be, because we're in the middle of it, so we don't see it the same way. Tyler Artis from Columbus, Ohio. He's a member of the Buckeye Scale Auto Club, and they've got a model contest coming up on March 16th at the McCoy Center in Columbus, Ohio. If you're interested, go attend the show. I'm sure they would be appreciative of your attendance. Grant Aztec, he had DM'd me because I recommended he build the Tamiya 72nd Scale Zero, which again, I know I sound like a broken record. Finest model kit I have ever built in 72nd scale. Best engineered, just a fantastic kit. He's building, as a matter of fact, he's on his second one, and he pulled what I call a basket, which is that he had 2 bottles of similar looking clear modeling related fluids on his hobby shop desk. And the one that he was thought was denatured alcohol was not. It was paint thinner. And he had a problem. Luckily, it wasn't an insurmountable problem. He was able to recover and fix it. But I knew you, of all people, would sympathize with that particular issue.
Yeah, I've gotten in the habit of clearing fluids off my desk that aren't related to the task at hand.
Yes. Clear labeling and making sure that anything that you are not currently using for the current task are important in not making that mistake. And you'll only make that mistake once.
But it's in varying degrees of severity.
Yes, that's right. It could be bad. Luckily, his wasn't too bad. His was recoverable. You could make a mistake from which you might not be able to easily recover.
Yeah, other than starting a whole new kit and starting over.
Exactly. Finally, Tom Choi reached out to say that his daughter now recognizes our voices from the podcast, because not only does he play them in the car, but he actually plays them at home. And she recognized the voices and said, "Aren't those the guys from the car?"
Poor girl.
So, yeah, I was going to say, Tom, we're not going to report you to CPS, but, I good on you. I hope she enjoys them, and we're happy to be part of your family's listening pleasure.
That the last one?
That's the last one.
Well, folks, that was a lot. Thanks for bearing with us again, but we're going to need some more for the next episode, so keep it coming. If you want to reach out by email, you do so by going to or sending those emails to plasticmodelmojo@gmail.com, and I'll usually take those. If you'd rather use Facebook's messaging system, you can direct message us there, and Dave will pick those up for the most part. So please write in, tell us what you're doing, what you like, what you don't like, and we'll talk about it on the show.
I'd like to take a moment to ask all the listeners, when you're done listening to this podcast, please go to whatever podcast app you're using, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, whatever it might be. Rate the podcast. We'd appreciate it if you give us 5 stars. It helps drive the visibility of the podcast up. Additionally, if you have a friend, a modeling friend who is not listening to podcasts or not listening to this podcast, please make them aware of it. Show them how to download a podcasting app on their phone and help them get started listening to Plastic Model Mojo. A recommendation from a current listener is the number one way for us to grow the podcast. So we appreciate any help in that regard.
In addition to that, please check out all the other content out there in the model sphere. You can check out the other podcasts by going to www.modelpodcast.com. That's model podcast, plural with an S.com. It's a consortium website set up with the help of Stuart Clark from the Scale Model Podcast up in Canada. If you go to that URL, you'll find the banner links to all the other podcasts in the model sphere who are participating in the spirit of cross promotion with us. And please check out their content. In addition to the podcast, we've got a lot of other content creator friends out there in the model sphere. Mr. Jim Bates, Scale Canadian TV's got an entertaining YouTube channel. You want to check that out. Chris Wallace, Model Airplane Makers, dropped a couple of YouTube videos here late, along with his blog posts. Always good stuff.
Yeah,
got his predictions for 2024, and the other one was about a laser cutter and engraver he got as a sample from the manufacturer, and is using that to make some nice-looking model bases. So check out what Chris is doing with that at Model Airplane Maker. Jeff Groves, the Inch Eye guy. His blog is dedicated to 72nd scale, pretty much all things, armor, ships, aircraft, does a lot of batch builds. Check out what Jeff's going on at Inch Eye Guy.
Yeah, he only produced 72 models in 2024 or 2023. So, he's kind of slowing down.
Friend and past recent guest, Stephen Lee, Sprue Pie with Frets. He's pretty much a daily update on his blog, particularly with his build stuff, but he's got some long-form topics on there you're going to want to check out. So Sprue Pie with Frets from Stephen Lee. And finally, our good friend Evan McCallum, Panzermeister 36. He just dropped a recent YouTube episode on the nuances of one of the German tropical schemes.
Yes, really, really good.
So check them all out. Make your modeling better.
Finally, if you are not a member of IPMS USA, IPMS Canada, or your local national IPMS chapter, please consider joining your national organization. These are organizations run by volunteers who are giving up their time to help make modeling better in your country. Please give them your support. They definitely need it. If you're an armor modeler, AMPS, the Armor Modeling Preservation Society, is an organization dedicated to promoting armor modeling and armor preservation. Please check them out. And also, if you are not a member of the dojo on Facebook, Plastic Model Dojo, please search it out. Please join, please post. There's lots of great stuff going on over there, and we'd love to have you as not only a member of the community, but a person posting so that we can see your contribution to scale modeling.
Well, Dave, it's time for a word from our sponsor. Plastic Model Mojo is now brought to you by Model Paint Solutions, your source for Harder Steenbeck airbrushes, David Union power tools, and laboratory-grade mixing, measuring, and storage tools for use with all your model paints, be they acrylic, enamels, or lacquers. Check them out at www.modelpaintsolutions.com. Well, Dave, All-American Red, White, and Blue, the IPMS National Convention in Madison, Wisconsin, coming up, man.
It's getting close, man.
At the time of this recording, Dave, it is 189 days away.
Holy, wow. That's close.
And too much anticipated fanfare, quote unquote. The first round of hotel blocks have been opened up and they're kind of gone. But there'll be more. And if you want to keep abreast of what's going on with that and just about everything else, you're going to want to go to nats2024.com. nats2024.com. That is the official website for the National Convention for the 2024 year. They got a lot of information there. A lot of it's in their Madison mission brief. Now, the most recent one is still dated 11/24, but I suspect there's going to be a new one fairly soon because with the hotel block open date having come and gone, and the pre-registration is next. So
right,
get on there and get all the information about the show. Plan on attending.
And if you didn't get a hotel in the first round, there is an Embassy Suites being built directly across the street from the convention center. That isn't taking reservations yet because of the fact that it's not yet completed, but it is going to be completed sometime here soon and will open for reservations, and they'll announce that on the website. So keep your eye open. It will add additional rooms available for folks who want to attend the show.
Dave, over the last couple months, I guess, we've been getting some emails from our friend out in California, Ed Baroth.
Yeah. Letting
us know what he's been up to. And he hadn't been on in a while, so we decided to have Ed back for his third appearance and just let us get caught up on what Uncle Ed's been up to.
He's had some interesting things going on in his modeling life, and it really, really interested to catch up with him.
Well, let's check it out. Well, Dave, we started off with the 12-minute model sphere in January, talking about our guests this month are from California. So one of our favorite California guests is on the line again tonight, Ed Baroth. Ed, it's been a while since you've been on the show. Thanks for coming on again. How you been?
I've been good. I'm honored. I feel honored to be the first of the year. First, it sure beats being 86, which was the last one I was. So I figured that number one is always better.
So did you have a fruitful 2023? Did you crank out a lot?
I did, and I had some wonderful model experiences this year. I went to 6 shows this year. Basically, the only one I missed was one in Las Vegas. But LA, the Southern California area has got a lot of shows.
Yeah.
Let's start right there. Let's talk about some of those shows and what the whole show scene means to you and how the shows were.
Well, I'll give you the LA circuit, okay? The LA circuit begins at the end of February when there's a model contest in Ventura based on, there's a hobby shop there and he puts on a show. Okay, that's the first show. Then comes June. Actually, we used to have 2 shows in between, but they both canceled. In June comes San Diego with your friend last week from Australia. He said he was there.
Yep.
That's the one in San Diego. And then we had a new one in Oxnard. An IPMS just had their first meeting.
Oh, wow.
In Oxnard. Yeah. And it was successful, and they had it at a car museum.
Oh, wow.
So we have, especially down here, in San Diego, they actually have it at an airfield.
Right.
You're in the hangar. And so then you've got that. And then there was in Antelope Valley, there's another IPMS. And then the week after was IPMS in Phoenix for Model Zona.
Phoenix is a great place. I've been to 3 nationals there.
Yes, I have been 2 nationals. And that was the funny thing about going there, that we have friends there and we go visit for the nationals and stuff. And so we thought, this time, hey, we can actually go to Phoenix in the winter.
Which is the only good time to go to Phoenix.
Okay, spoken as some people who've been to Phoenix twice, to the Nationals in Phoenix in August.
The last time I went to Phoenix for the Nationals, it was in August, and it was 112 degrees outside.
Yep.
The 2-block walk to the post office was, pretty wild.
Hell's March.
Yes, exactly.
I don't know how they do it. I don't know how, you live half the year like that, but that's besides the point. They don't know how I live.
What models did you finish in 2023?
Oh, finished. I finished a very nice model. I finished for a Sky Raider with wings that I've shown on the Mojo, and then I finished the Airfix Blenheim in 48th, and it is a really nice kit.
It's an unbelievably nice kit. The Sky Raider, was it the Zuki Mori kit?
No. This was crazy. This was to me a 48th Sky Raider.
Gotcha.
That the story was I was going to do it as a duo with somebody called Oliver Doring. I don't know if you're familiar with his work. Mm-hmm. He's incredible. He posts on IPMS. Anyway, we were going to do something together, and he does helicopters. And he said, and we're going to do 48th. All right, I'll do a Sky Raider. You do a helicopter. We'll make a carrier diorama.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm dealing with this guy, and I just can't make a toy, Tamiya Sky Raider against him. It's not a competition, but I have to, pull my weight.
Got to show him who's boss.
Well, I got to be in the ballpark with him.
That's right.
So he gives me a folding wing set. Actually, I get 2 folding wing sets. One is, I don't know, whatever those folding wing sets are. One's all resin, and the other one is just photo etch. You got to cut the wings. So I said, I got to do this. So the next thing you know, I've put a cockpit in. I put folding wings in. I put some other stuff in. I've got the corrected propeller. I've got the PE in the cockpit, and I go crazy inside the wing folds.
So as an engineer, what do we call this? Project creep.
And it went on and it came out great, I have to tell you, and it has really got me some nice awards.
Good.
Including Best Tamiya in San Diego.
Oh, nice.
What you get for that is they gave me one of their 48ths, the F-35A.
Oh, cool.
All right.
Very
48th,
nice.
which comes into the story later when we talk about the museum, because that's how I decided to donate it to them.
Dave and I are always talking about going to shows, and this year, we tried last year. We're a little more committed this year to at least featuring one local show that's going to happen in a month as a special short segment or a short episode between our regular episodes. And we started in January with Winter Blitz show that's going to be in College Station, Texas. And we've got one that's going to be up in Seattle that we'll talk about a little later in this month with our friend Jim Bates. But you've been doing this a while, Ed, and we talk about shows. We sure enjoy shows. What would you say to folks about going to shows and why it's fun for you and what you get out of it?
I would say as a public service announcement, yeah. You know what I mean? It really changes you to get out and be with people. Anybody will tell you it's the healthiest thing you can do for you is to get out and mingle with people who do stuff that you do.
Yeah.
There's no anything. That's what everyone says. And it's just the great big people, the model clubs just helps get you into a better modeler. And I would honestly say I want people to come to shows because I want people to finish models. That's always been my thing. I'm trying to get, people finish the model. Okay. Otherwise there won't be any shows because nobody's going to have anything to bring.
Yeah, the unfinished model contest.
Yeah, the unfinished category would be pretty big.
Yeah, so I'm all for people not only coming to shows but bringing something. I understand if you didn't finish, but and I agree you should come to support, especially now that and I realize, to be honest, stuff is more than it used to be. Everything is more expensive. It just is, and so I wouldn't tell people don't go because you're going to get pissed that it's more expensive. But it is. I mean, that's reality.
But the local shows aren't too much still, really.
No, they're not. That's what I'm saying. They're not. I'm just saying the food. You'll go someplace for lunch and, and it'll usually be whatever. Now it's whatever. Or the T-shirts, that kind of stuff. So that's honest. But I honestly wish we'd encourage more people to come to the shows, because that's when you meet the people.
Yep. Being with people at shows, to me, that's the big thing. Even more than the contest, and actually even more than the vendors, is the fact you get to run into people that you interact with online or whatever, but because you don't live near each other, you only see them a couple of times a year at model contests.
Yeah, I mean, even though this is all LA, we never see the exact same people from one show to the other. The people on the northern end versus the San Diego end, it's in LA. That's far distance.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. And a lot of traffic between the two.
The traffic is yes.
Is 6 shows typical for you a year?
Yeah, that's what and that doesn't even include, there's always stuff in Northern California.
Sure.
I know there's stuff in Santa Clara. And I've actually been to one of those shows. I will go to a show as long as I can drive to it.
Well, what do you mean? You can hop on that high-speed rail system I hear you got, and it'll get you from LA all the way up to Sacramento.
Hey. Are we going to get into
we are not.
State debates? Because,
No, we are not.
We are not going to talk about Kentucky, are we?
No, I am just having fun with you.
I believe me, and I welcome it.
But hey, even if you're driving up to San Francisco or Sacramento, it's a beautiful, California is undeniably a beautiful state. You got nice drives up there, even if it's a little long.
No, I understand. And again, for the audience, yes, I feel blessed to live. I didn't grow up here. I moved here. And yes, and I do agree, no matter what you say about LA and San Francisco, that kind of stuff, California is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yosemite, the mountains and everything like that, it's just gorgeous.
Yeah. And you can attend a bunch of model contests and never even leave the state. We don't have that luxury.
We don't have to drive too far, though.
No, we don't.
East versus West is a big topic. I'd like to talk to you at length at some other time.
Yeah.
The shows have not all you've been into. I know you mentioned the museum.
Yes.
You just mentioned there, we get into it in a little bit, but with the F-35. But a few months back, you sent me some pictures of some other models you donated. Am I correct with that?
Oh, yeah. I will get to yes. I ended up donating 18 models.
How did that come about?
A topic that we get in listener mail with some regularity, not too often, but it's definitely a repeat. Is once you get a bunch of models, what's the disposition of all that at the end of your at the end of your road, or maybe you just get too many at the end of your storage space, whichever comes first. Museums comes up. Won't you set the stage for that and how that transpired, and then get into what you did donate?
I would love you to tell you a story, and like all stories, it involves my wife who helped. Okay, the story begins. My wife's a quilter, and quilters have an alternate universe to ours. They have meetings and shows and this and that. It's exactly the same, except they're just quilting. Anyway, she has a Christmas party. They know I'm in a band. They asked me to play. They don't have any money, so I really can't get the other people to commit to play. So I say, I'll be your DJ. So I put on some jazz Christmas albums and a little Mannheim steamroller, and I went and I played music for them. And at the table, there's a woman, and she and her husband are friends with a couple who live in Lancaster, and he is 92, and he volunteers for work at the museum at Edwards Air Force Base. Okay. Mm-hmm. So he says, and he knows I build models. Long story short, I end up talking to him. He's 92 years old, and he volunteers once a week to go to work at the museum. And so I figure I better get in touch with him quick. So I call him. We arrange, and he gives me a tour. I go up there, he gives me a tour. And the thing about the museum at Edwards Air Force Base is it's on the base. So you can't get on without security. You just can't walk in off the streets and go. So he invites me, takes me on a tour. Never seen so many planes on sticks in the museum. and what have you. I have all kinds of everything related to Edwards Air Force Base, which basically for the users who don't know, I mean, that's where the shuttle came down when it came down in California.
Right.
That's where Jaeger broke the sound barrier. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. And they showed me around. We talked about models. And I said, I'd love, I've got these NASA models. I have some, X-planes that I built. In fact, I even showed some of them. I got one of them got an award at Nationals in Las Vegas, some 144th. So I said, yeah, bring them up. And a couple of months later, I did. I went back up there. I donated 17 models. And I have sent you guys pictures of most of them. Just the Edwards, the Apollo 132nd, the Hasegawa 48th Voyager, the Anagram X-planes, X1, X3, X15, 29, 33, all of those, and some other space stuff. A nice shuttle. I finished for someone else at the Tamiya, the 1/100th scale Tamiya space shuttle. Yeah, which is a very nice kit, and especially when you get the aftermarket patterns, that's a nice kit. So I donated that, and I found out, like I said, I won an F-35A. And then when I went up to donate, I said, you guys, obviously they've been tested there. And they said, no, we don't have one. So I said, all right, I'll make you one. So I made them one, and it actually won a couple of awards. It won an award in Model Zona. It won second place for 48 jets. No, it actually won first place in Model Zona. It won second place in Antelope Valley. And I asked if they wanted the awards with the kit, and they said, sure. And so it's their kit sitting on a mirror. Put it on a mirror to show it. And if you want to ask me about that kit, I'll be happy to talk to you about that kit.
Did they have a case or anything to display your models in?
They did. They had a case, the spare case that I started filling up, and evidently that's mine. They need to eventually. They're going to put some names and do this and do that. And it's a museum, and they have a million things to do and no money to do it.
Yeah.
And so eventually they make plans, what have you. But no, it's just a great thing feeling to do, and I'd say on so many levels, to get models out of the house.
Yeah.
That alone.
So you're telling me this whole thing wasn't your wife's plan from the beginning to get some models out of the house?
For all I know, she's certainly smart enough, but if that was the plan, then go for it.
Yeah, it sounds like it worked. It's win-win-win.
I know, and a win for the kids too. You get modeling, but I have these thoughts. I'm 72. Have these thoughts. God, if I were to go, what the kids do with the stash? What would they? Where would they begin?
Yep.
And so that's happy to get them out. There's one less thing for the kids to worry about, and it's a joy to go up there.
Yep.
And then when we went back, which was last month, to drop off the F-35, we got invited to their holiday party, and they said, okay, let's go on a road trip. So they took us to the C-130 Hercules that's sitting on the tarmac, and they opened it up for us, and we went in the back, and then we got to sit in the cockpit.
It helps to make friends at people who have museums.
In the world of barter, that's a fair trade. I will build a model. I will build a model and bring it to you if you'll show me that kind of experience. That is a fair trade.
Do they have anything they're lacking that they've started to hint to you they'd like to have a model of?
No, they haven't. But I'm glad you mentioned it, because I want to run an idea that I have for them, okay? I want your opinion. I think it's a great idea for a diorama, okay? The museum obviously is related to anything that happened at Edwards Air Force Base. Turns out, in the 1960s, there was an episode of Twilight Zone that was filmed at Edwards.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you guys are Twilight Zone aficionados.
Huge. Which episode?
Okay, it's called King 9 Won't Return.
Yep, I know exactly the one you're talking about.
I'm sure you do. If you're an airplane guy, you do just like I know. Why is it that it has a B-25 in it?
Right.
There's a B-25 sitting on what's supposed to be desert. Okay, they filmed that at Edwards. So let's make a diorama. Let's put the B-25 looking like on Edwards. Put in the actors who are there as part of the diorama, and actually put in the film crew.
Yeah, a big
as
boom
part of
camera
the diorama.
and all the boom mics and all that.
And all the boom mics.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I
So-
think that's a great idea, given the
I
theme of the
think that
museum is
too.
all about Edwards Air Force Base. It's certainly part of the history of the Air Force Base.
And not only that, but it's a great way to tie it into pop culture, because you might have people who don't have a particular tie-in to aircraft or aerospace or anything, but they see that and, they've seen the Twilight Zone marathon on Sci-Fi
Right.
every New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. No, I think that would be fantastic.
Okay. We've talked about it, and what I'm trying to do is get your opinion so I can try to move the needle, to get them to commit.
Yeah.
And, how much of the B-25 you see. Now you're getting into the modeling, whether or not, how big. Obviously, you'd want to do 48th. 172nd is too small. I mean, I know that you think it's God's scale.
No, for this in a museum, 48 scale makes perfect sense. The figures are just the right size. You can do the whole aircraft plus the filming crew and all. And, you can get nice thing is with that video being available, you can get stills from the episode.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It opens up so many things. Being a museum, they might be able to get permission to show the episode there.
Oh, I suspect they could.
Yeah.
That's it. It would be perfect to sit there and you could actually see the episode. And if anybody can get it, a museum can get it. And anyway, that's what I'm pushing. They have some other even weirder things about planes towing other planes and things like that, and mismatched things. But that's more complicated.
As long as we're on pop culture and possible dioramas, wasn't the M2F2 crash out there?
I'm sure there were crashes out there.
No, the $6 million man crash, the one they used for the lifting body, the one they used at the beginning of the $6 million man.
You've got me on that. I was never a $6 million man watcher.
I think that was also at Edwards Air Force Base.
But I'm not familiar with it.
That'd be another great one.
That opening sequence is probably on YouTube.
Oh yeah. Just go to YouTube and type $6 million man opening sequence, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, well, I have to ask: is that a good thing to show or a bad thing to show?
Oh no, that would be cool. Listen,
okay,
the $6 million man, Mike and our generation, we remember that imprinted on our minds. And in fact, most of us could probably do the speech. We can rebuild him faster, stronger, etc. But they used the film of the actual lifting body crash in the opening of the TV show. So when we're off this episode, go to YouTube and put that in. And you'll see what I'm talking about.
I'll do that and bring it up to them. Yeah.
But to Ed's point, I think a good thing or bad thing to show, I think the reason that ended up on the $6 million man is because the pilot of the actual crash actually came out of that not too bad.
Survived relatively intact.
They have at Edwards Air Force Base, they have like an archaeologist. They go hunting.
Oh yeah.
All over the place because there was stuff that was left there from the war.
Yep.
And so they'll tell me about how they're going, to go like they're going in Egypt. They're digging stuff up and what have you.
Yep.
To find. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff there.
Well, I think the B-25 Twilight Zone thing's a really good idea.
I think it would be. That would be cool as all get out.
Yeah, it would be great. I would do the B-25, to be honest. But, I might ask some people in the club who are much better figure painters than I ever will be to do that. And there's got to be some creativity because there is no 48 film set you can order. I'm sure that doesn't exist.
I'm sure you can either scratch build it or you can Who knows, with 3D printing and all these
That's what I'm
3D
saying,
printed figures.
There might be.
And the nice thing about 3D printed figures is once there's a figure, you can have it in whatever scale you want it.
Right. I know. So I'm just saying it opens up a lot of things. And in the meantime, I'm working on the 1/32nd scale, the trumpeter Wildcat.
Oh, my Lord.
Well, this is a little more to this, Edge. You're working on 2 Wildcats, aren't you?
Yes, I am. And this is all your fault, guys.
Okay, we'll take the hit.
Yes, this is your fault. Well, yours and Edward's.
Okay.
Edward came out with a really nice Wildcat last year.
Yes, they did.
Okay. My whole history is what I call the Monogram 7. The Hellcat, Wildcat, Avenger, Corsair, Dauntless, Devastator, and Helldiver.
Yep.
Those 7 kits. It's what I spent my childhood on, with the folding wings and the wheels that went up and the bombs that dropped.
Yep.
Anyway, so I have a real affinity for those 7. And I've always wanted to I have a collection of them, all 7 in 72nd, in 48th, and in 32nd. Just one of those, bucket list things down the road.
Mm-hmm.
I have done them in 72nd. In fact, that's where I started when I first got back into it for practice. I've got them in 48th. Had some really nice kits in 48th. That's when the Accurate Miniature stuff came out. Those were really nice kits.
Yes.
I've got them in 48th with folding wings and non-folding wings. So I have literally a set of 13 48th scale. The Dauntless never had folding wings.
Right.
Okay, so that's why there's 13. And I've always wanted to do it in 32nd. I did some, old Revell kits. But I happen to have this 32nd Wildcat. And these people from Model Mojo say I won a stencil kit, a lovely stencil kit.
I remember this.
And it is.
From One Man Army. And doesn't it nag at me because I'm getting fed up with decals, and this seems like a good time and perfect thing to try out not using decals at all. And plus, I'm curious how well this works.
I'm there for you.
Between the two of those, I said, let me do a 32nd, the trumpet, and the 48th, because I can use some of the latest stuff, that Edward put in the kit. I can use it almost as a reference for the 32nd, because it's a lot older. And trumpeter, the painting decals, so, the details are insane. So I could use the Edward to help me build the 32nd. So that's what I've been working on. And then I've got this stencil I've got to use. So it's all come together, and I'm putting it, and I'm having it in typical. I'm having the 32nd trumpeter. One of the wings is going to be folded. The other wing is going to show off the gun bay. The engine actually comes with a clear cowling, so I can show off half the engine.
Oh, nice.
And the cockpit I did up as best I could. It does have some PE.
When we first met you in Las Vegas, we were looking at, I believe it was a 32nd scale Kingfisher.
Yeah. The Yellow Wings Kingfisher.
And then then you had another yellow wing. I don't remember what it was, but it was 48th scale.
48th, yeah, Vindicator.
Okay, yeah. So already know you have a foot in 2 scales pretty often, but basically 2 of the same aircraft in 2 different scales. I mean, what's that like working through that?
It was funny because you use one against, the other one when I'm putting together the engine. Obviously, the engine on the Edward is real nice. The engine on the trumpeter is much more basic.
But it's the bigger one.
It's the bigger one.
Yeah.
Right.
And not only that, I'll let you know on a secret, they forgot the intake tubes, for the engine.
Mm-hmm.
It's got 16, it's got 14 exhaust pipes, but it's got no intake pipes. So, and I got to add a lot of stuff, spacers between, and I used them both to modify them. And it's the one thing I look at is the Edward 48th is a little kind of fiddly. Remember we used to talk about Accurate Miniatures being fiddly, especially the inside pieces for the engine mount are just really small in 48 pieces, and they break easily. So it's a little bit more fiddly. So you got to take care of it. But they do a nicer. That's a funny thing. They do a nicer part of that, and they provide some PE with it for the Edward. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I got caught up doing the 32nd, and I'm trying to get really caught up because I had to deal with the wings. How do you make the wing fold? And that I have to detail that. That's the other thing I have to do, is really detail that wing, the folding wing. So a lot of references.
I bet. It's funny that the level of detail is better on the 48 scale kit.
Well, it just goes to show you because of because that was one of the earlier trumpeter 32nd scale kits.
Yes.
And it just goes to show you, engineering wise, how much of a sea change has taken place in design, in molding, in level of detail that manufacturers are willing to reproduce and put in their kits. It's a whole different world.
I agree.
Quite rapidly in the last 10 years or so, but it's been slowly happening over the last couple of decades. It's gone more from originally like the monogram kits you mentioned, Ed, and even the Revell kits of that same era were really marketed toward kids, and they were kind of handled in the retail space by toy people.
Right.
And that's really changed.
Yes.
Now,
yes, I agree. But I think that was we have to find a way to put stuff in their hands, though, in kids' hands.
That's true.
Yeah.
We just do.
If you go to any hobby shop right now, man, I'm telling you what, if you walk into the Gundam aisle of any local hobby shop, and they all have them because they need them to survive, because those are the kits that are flying off the shelves. If you want to find the younger modelers, they're in there buying those things and building them the way that we used to build them when we were young, where you buy a kit and you take it home and you build it. I mean, not buy it and go take it and stick it in a stash like we do now, but actually, all right, I'm throwing stones. Maybe I'm looking in the mirror here, but with Gundams, they are much more meant to be taken, built, assembled, finished, and move on to the next one.
Yeah.
And that's great for the hobby shop owner because he's turning over more product. That's great for the modeler because they're getting to build and build more. Those are all great things.
I agree. And the same thing in the hobby shops that I frequent. Yeah, there's all the Gundam and the other sci-fi and the Star Trek this and the what have you that, and that's fine. And I know that World War II airplanes will not stay popular forever. That there will be a change. That Gundam and whatever the kids do and the cars, you can see it now that there's a time, when people are just not going to remember P-51 Mustang.
I don't know. We still remember the Sopwith Camel.
Only if you're interested in history.
Well, and yes. Well, we had a guest on recently, a history teacher down in Texas, building models and using those models to stimulate his students' interest in.
I agree. And I think that's wonderful. I also think it's an outlier.
Well, hopefully not. Hopefully, hopefully there will be a resurgence in a desire for history. You look at the movie Oppenheimer, people will go and learn if you provide it in the proper format.
I would like nothing better.
Yep, you and me both.
I'd like nothing better. I'm just noticing the trend, so to speak.
Oh, I feel you. I feel it too.
I mean, it would be, as Mr. Spock would say, it would be illogical to deny the truth is illogical. You can see it, and I can see what you can see with the cars, see what's going up and what's coming down. And so I can't help it. That's what I like doing, and I'm going to keep on doing it.
I think generally, though, that the teacher is an outlier, and the movies are probably geared to a more certain interested group of people. Like, there's going to be a small resurgence in World War II models here coming first quarter of this year when this 8th Air Force miniseries hits.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm hoping, yes.
Yeah. And I don't know how long it'll last, but it'll move the needle for a little while, and we'll get some more modelers out of it, and that'll all be good.
Did you guys see that movie, All the Light We Cannot See? It's on Netflix, I think it is.
No, not yet.
It's excellent. Liked it very much.
Good.
Just an aside.
I'm always looking for new stuff.
Well, Ed, we talked about shows a little bit at the museum. What's your local club involvement like out there for you personally?
I am involved in 2 clubs. One is called the Pasadena Modeling Society, PMS. Well, that's what it is. I can live with it. You can live with it. It's just anyway.
Why change it?
It goes back forever.
It's
Yeah, it's
funny,
IPMS anyway. So
yeah. And we're like just a small group who meet once a month with some very talented modelers. We meet at a VFW in Pasadena once a month, and we do what all clubs do. We bring in models. We have little shows, demos. People bring in, pictures of the museums they've been to. We had an interesting experiment that maybe people would be interested in. I am the theme director because I can't get out of it. My theme for last January was bring in a model you promise to build by the end of the year. Okay. And we got some people to come in, and then somebody else in the club decided to monetize it. And he said, okay, everybody put in $10. And when you finish the kits in October, we'll have a raffle. And you don't, it won't be judged. It just needs to be finished. And it turns out we had 2 $100 drawings.
Oh, nice. Sounds like you got a lot of participation.
We got, 15, 16 people who decided to do that. And I actually won one of the $100.
All right.
Believe it or not. And I wasn't even there because I was in Phoenix because they had moved the model meeting so many times. It turns out I was in Phoenix the night before Model Zona is when this happened. So I went to Model Zona $100 a head.
Nice.
That never hurts.
Yeah, it never hurts at all.
And I'm also a Burbank House. It's called Lamb's Los Angeles Miniature Society, and they're out of Burbank, and they meet once a month, first Saturday of the month, and there are some tremendous people. You got to remember we're in the LA in entertainment. There are serious artists.
Are they more figure oriented?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they are. They're more figure oriented. But you've got people doing props. You got this. You got that. There's a lot of good people. And so and that's once a month, and it's in the morning, and then we all go to Burbank House of Hobbies after.
Oh, nice.
I do a lot of business with those guys. Well, not a lot, but I mail order them frequently for my kind of consumables because they're so fast. I mean, Burbank to Lexington, Kentucky is usually like 3 days. I mean, they really get on the stick and get me what I need.
Yeah, they really do.
I'm glad to hear it. I'll certainly pass that along to the owner.
Yeah, pass it along because I actually sent them a kudos via email, and maybe they get a lot of email. I don't fault them for not getting back with me, but they didn't.
I'll check. I'll check with the one guy who would know on the computer side.
Just tell them what a great job they did and how much I appreciate it because they usually have what I need, and I usually have it in a few days after that. I mean, if I order it at the end of the weekend or on a Monday, I'll be using it by the next weekend easily.
And you should walk into that. That's the hobby shop you guys talked about long ago, where you have to turn sideways to walk through the aisles. You do. This place has more paint than Dunn Edwards. It's just amazing how many lines of paint they have. I actually can get my Gunze Aqueous. I like Gunze Aqueous and Tamiya. Those are the 2 basic colors I use.
Well, there's not many people carry that one on the shelf.
And not many people carry it. No, not at all. They carry the Mr. Color, but not the Aqueous.
Yeah. Right.
Well, do either of these clubs you're involved with have an annual show?
No, they don't. Neither of them is actually IPMS.
Okay.
We used to have a show with the people in Pasadena for years and years. It was called Valley Con, and I'm sure somebody out there recognizes. And it was all through the work of George Creed, which I don't think you've ever met. But if you know anything, mention his name, anything to do with Southern California modeling for 20 years, they'll tell you George Creed. He would put together our show in Pasadena, and obviously we'd help him, but it was his baby, and he ran with it. And unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. And we just can't seem to get the required amount put together to restart it.
Sure.
And obviously, our last show was literally 2 weeks before the pandemic. We were first week of March 2020. Literally was when we had our meeting, our national, our regional meeting show. And then the next week it went off.
The world shut down.
The world shut down. And we just haven't restarted after.
Yeah.
You do try to get there. And again, I encourage everybody to go. Everything's close, to be honest, in our, traffic, but it takes an hour to get anywhere. So come to a club.
Yep. We also push the clubs.
Yes.
And I agree, you should. And it's healthy for you. There's no bad side to it in the sense that it's healthy for you to get out there with people. And especially because I'm talking like an old man now because I'm an old man, I guess. But, it's very important for people in our age group, 70, to get exercise, to get out, to meet people, to be social in some sense. It's really healthy for you. Not only will you live longer, you'll live better. That's my PSA. I honestly, the story of the engineer huddled over, or the modeler huddled over the desk and doesn't get out and this and that and everything. I don't know how true it is, but looking at the shape and form of most modelers, we could all use a little bit more exercise.
You think?
You think we could all use a little bit more exercise?
Yep.
A little walking, standing up. You know what I mean? At least get up once an hour, set your alarm,
get some sunlight.
Get some sunlight, from that glow. Get away from sniffing super glue. It's all really walk. Actually, meet a neighbor. Go find out who you're living near.
That's right.
Because we do that. We walk around the block. That's why our exercise. We'll walk around the block a lot. We'll walk in our canyon and stuff. But I don't know how you got me on this. This is.
Well, it started with the shows and getting out and what you thought was important about that. And really, you're right. Your local clubs offer the same kind of stimulation for interaction with other people.
Yeah, and it just does.
We're at the front end of 2024, like you just said. You got to be first this year. What's on Ed Baroth's plate for 2024? What are you hoping to get done as a scale modeler?
Okay, I've got my 48th Wildcats, and then I'm seriously toying with. I won at my show's Christmas raffle. I won the Arma 48th Hurricane.
Ooh.
Nice kit.
I looked already. There is a ton of photo etch already with it. A ton of aftermarket. And that's a good question. How do I decide which ones I want and which ones I don't? If I want any of them, or do I want to just do it out of the box?
Well, that was nice out of the box.
I know. I haven't really looked at it closely. And then I don't know. I really don't know. I know I want to do another 70-second tank.
Oh, yeah. You had some of those at Las Vegas, too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff coming out in 70-second scale in the armor base.
I do that to relax, and it's always the same, just out of the box and minimum research. Basically, if you tell me it's that color, then I'll use that color.
We all need some of those sometimes.
Yeah. So that I'd like to fit in there. And then if I'll be honest with you, I am hoping the museum keeps me busy. I would like nothing better than saying this is that, and this is our plan. And could you commit to doing that stuff for this year? I'd love it. I mean, to me, there's nothing better these days than building a model and getting it out of the house.
Well, that B-25 would be a larger one to get out of the house.
Yes, it will. Wish we could do it in 30 seconds, but they don't make a B-25C. HK doesn't make a C, do they?
No.
Oh, Ed Baroth could make a C out of it.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
No, that's a marketing opportunity for some company to redo the accurate miniatures. Take their series, their 48th, the early ones, and upgun it to 32nd.
I think Italeri or Testers has those molds, or at least
they do.
thought they did.
Yeah, Italeri does.
They're rusting away somewhere in Italy.
May well be.
And the shows, you're going to try to hit the same ones? Or?
I'll try to get the same ones. I don't promise. Vegas is a commitment.
Well, how far is Vegas versus Phoenix?
Well, Phoenix is further, but Phoenix, we have friends, and we stayed with them, and it was a thing, and this and that. I'll be honest with you. I am not a Vegas person. It's not like I look for an excuse to go to Vegas. You have to make me go to Vegas.
Other than a model contest, there's an excuse to go to Vegas.
There is, right. To be honest, that's the best reason I go to Vegas, for a model contest.
It's a pretty good show, I hear. I've never been to their regular annual show.
The rest of Vegas doesn't really appeal. So it's not like I have friends. Hey, I'm going to Vegas this week. No, not me.
Well, I hope the museum does keep you busy.
I'm hoping they will. It's just probably won't be because I know their budget. You know, they've got a million other things to do, so
sure
they can only put so much towards this education or whatever it is we're doing.
Well, the next thing they'll do is they'll get you fundraising for them.
Yeah, they only need I think $5 million to move to the new museum that's outside the gate, so that would be open to the public.
Well, get on that.
That's all. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll call my Hollywood friends.
Do that. Get on that.
There's some high rollers shop at Burbank House of Hobbies.
That's right.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
Some Spielberg guy goes in there every once in a while.
Every once in a while. It's no different than my son tells me the Starbucks near his house. You know, people drop by all the time.
Sure.
So it is the way it is. I'm looking forward to a good year of building. Although, to be honest, I may do some traveling. I have to tell you, I have a room at the Clarion.
All right.
Good.
In Madison?
For the Nationals. In Madison.
I was going to ask here when we were going to get to see again. Well, I guess that might be it.
Yeah.
I'm talking to the wife, and we're looking like we're going to take a road trip.
Well, good. That'd be a nice road trip.
Well, I look forward to that, and we'll have to talk to you again once we're all there.
Absolutely. We're going to hit some of the quilt museums on the way, and we'll see. We haven't thought about the route, but the idea is driving. We've never been to that part of town, to Michigan and that. We just drove quickly through Wisconsin. And so everybody says it's nice, so we're going to check it out.
Well, Ed, thanks for joining us again, for being our first guest of the year. And again, we wish you a fruitful and productive 2024, and hopefully we'll catch you in Madison.
I think so, and I will certainly keep you up to date, especially if we got to go on that diorama.
All right. Show it in the Facebook group, and let us know how receptive the museum is to the idea, because I think it's a great idea.
I do too.
All right. Take care, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Always is. A lot of fun to have you on. Have a good evening.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, Ed's always fun to talk to, Dave.
Always, just absolutely. You know, January is California month here at Plastic Model Mojo.
Apparently so.
It's always great to talk to Ed. He's got a kind of unique perspective. Not only has he been in the hobby a long time, but because of the nature of what his job was in space flight, you and he have a connection in that regard, and it's really great to catch up with him.
Well, we're going to get to catch up with him again at Madison if all plans come together, and that'll be fun there too, because that's kind of where we met him, at a national convention in Las Vegas. So
yes, it was.
Well, I know your end of the year got stymied by some illness, Dave.
It did, or beginning of the year.
Yes, well, a little bit of both, I guess. Yeah, the beginning of the year, but hopefully that's behind you, and it was behind you a little bit before we record this session. What is up on your bench?
Well, three main things. One, the LCM that is part of the September's group build for the D-Day engineering vehicles group build for Madison. The LCM is pretty much all together. It's been painted. It has had some initial weathering done. Then the acrylic future barrier has been put on it now. There were some touch-ups that were required when you live in a house with as many animals as I do, even though my model room is well segregated from the animals. You get the occasional hair, so I had to go back and fix some problems, but ultimately now I am on to pin wash on the LCM. The fuselage, the F8, is making its way through the decaling stage very slowly, much more slowly than I would like. What I need is a block of several hours where I could focus on just that. I'm going to struggle to find it here, but I will find it. Since it's 2024, so it's no longer pre-building for my 2024 campaign. The fine molds A7M, the cockpit, the interior, the instrument panel have all been done. And the fuselage, other than applying some seat belts, the fuselage is ready to go together. And then once I do that, I whip on through the rest of it. And that's going to be my first experiment using the plotter cutter for all of the markings. I'm going to try and mask every marking on the A7M so that there are literally no decals on it. And we'll see how that goes. I'm making progress. Not as much as I wanted, but I'm making progress.
Well, have you decided how you're going to display the landing craft yet?
No, I have not. In fact, I need to consult with Dr. Geldmacher, who is leading our group build. I mean, I might put it on a couple of brass plinths. I might mount it to no base at all. I might put it in a water base. A lot of it's probably going to depend on what he thinks would look best with the overall collection we're doing. Yeah, I'm going to have to consult him on that. What's your benchtop look like?
I've been pretty busy. I was trucking along through the holidays and, then I had my eye problem.
Yes.
But that's all fixed now, and I'm back at it again.
Yes.
So let's start with the Mooseroo Cup build.
I know you can't say too much.
I'm not going to say too much because I like keeping it secret to the very end, to the chagrin of everybody else who's doing the Mooseroo Cup. But tough crap.
There's a little surprise.
That's right. There's got to be surprise.
That's right.
Else you can go back and change yours.
Exactly.
I mean, we're in it to win it, man.
That's right. You've got a reputation.
That'd be something, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Anyway, I'm off to clear coating some of these Ural truck sub-assemblies. Got one of them done. A little bit of a disaster of sorts.
With the paint or the clear coat?
The clear coat. I've got an H&S Evolution.
Right.
Which is kind of their mid-model double action.
Right.
And for some reason, I had it in my head that it came factory with a 0.4 needle and tip in it.
That's an alternate, I think. I don't think that's the factory.
The alternate, it comes with a 0.2 and a 0.4.
Right.
So the single only comes with a 0.2. And when VMS says they recommend you spray this at 20 to 30 PSI through a 0.4 tip, you better listen.
So you were using the VMS gloss coat?
The satin.
Okay.
Which goes down beautifully when it's going through the airbrush the right way.
So you're telling us that Uncle Night Shift is not leading us wrong when he says that?
He is not.
Okay.
I do recommend the larger tip and needle, though.
Yes.
Because when mine finally choked off, not even air would go through my airbrush. So that precipitated a long, arduous task of cleaning all that crap out. I got the tip needle swapped out right. And I tell you, that stuff is really, really forgiving.
That's what I've heard.
When my airbrush, it was spraying, and you just get that inkling in the back of your head, I feel like I'm having to pull the needle back a little further to get this to keep spraying. And then splat. Yeah. The airbrush sneezed on me. And I swear, had it been anything else, paint or probably any other clear coat that I'm familiar with, it had been headed to the alcohol bath to strip it down to plastic again. But what I did was I just let it completely dry. Now it leveled out, and the the sheen was a little different. You could still see where it splattered.
Right.
But when I came back again with the 0.4 needle and tip that was putting down a lot more varnish than my 0.2 was, and just did it all over again, completely disappeared. Cannot see it. It's not there anymore. It's gone.
And
it's gone.
You may remember my comment using the GX100. When I was using the GX100 to coat the fuselage of the F8, I had some left in my brush, and I decided to experiment by taking my mule and flooding the GX100 on there. I mean, where it made ripples and waves and just looked awful. I mean, flooded it on there. Cleaned the brush, walked away, came back to it. It had dried perfectly smooth, absolutely self-leveled. The only thing you could see was that there were different levels of shine in different areas where the waves had occurred. But if you went right back over it with the GX100, you'd have never known it occurred in the first place.
Yeah, that's good to know. I wouldn't recommend you paint that way, but
no, neither would I. But it's nice to know that if you make that mistake, don't panic. Walk away from it. Stop, walk away from it, and come back, and the problem may cure itself.
Yeah, these splatters, I saw that they were trying to level out. I'm like, well, let's just see what happens before I start stripping this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Once I got the airbrush cleaned and the needle and tip, or the tip and needle sorted out, it all kind of fixed itself. So hopefully that order you made will come in and I'll have the gloss coat.
Oh, you're getting a little ahead of us.
That's all right.
So what else?
I've been working on the undercoating for the E16. I'm back on that.
Okay.
And I think I failed to put that on the dojo.
Oh, you need to post it.
But I showed you all the black and white grayscale stuff's done. Now, I use that term lightly because once I was smugly admiring the way it kind of looked, I turned it to the light and I see this visible seam on the end of one of the pontoon floats. I'm like, God, you got to be kidding me.
Yep.
So when I did all the initial fill and sand on those things, they weren't mounted to the aircraft. Well, now they are. So I'm like, oh, man. I've got to hold this in a way that lets me isolate that thing so it doesn't move while I'm sanding on it. And then, that was the first thought. How am I going to do it? I'm like, well, okay, I got a plan. I'm going to use Mr. Surfacer 500 and I'm going to dab some on. It's going to sand it out the way I've figured out I'm going to hold it and it's going to be fine. Well, the Mr. Surf 500 I had was a little thick, a little old.
It does tend to thicken as it gets old, but it is curable if that happens.
You can fix that with Mr. Leveling Thinner.
Right.
And I did that, and I still got it on thicker than I wanted. So I figured out a way with my hand that I could wrap it around one of the wings and up under the pontoon and actually hold this thing and do the work on the end of the pontoon. But I worked on it. I got it sanded out. I primed it again. There's a couple of flat spots because it's like a dome, right? The end of the pontoon is round. I touched that up a little bit again this morning before I went to work and worked on a little bit more before we start here tonight. And I think I got it now. So on to the next phase of this underpainting.
Great.
That the Mr. Surfacer, the over application kind of derailed my progress. Listeners don't know it, but I'd told you that the wife was at a convention in D.C. this weekend into the early part of the week here. And my Sunday was kind of wide open. I had this plan for this big model palooza, right?
So did I, but I had the flu.
Yeah, well, I put on too much Mr. Surfacer 500, and it was going to take it like 30 hours to dry.
Oh, yeah. You have to let that stuff dry and dry completely.
And I kind of derailed my efforts. So, we had a little group modeling with our Canadian friends.
It's funny you use the word derailed because you're hiding your light under a bushel.
You jumped ahead.
Okay.
So with our little session the other night with the Canadians, I was not able to sand on my E16 float plane float. So the next thing I want to do is I want to start masking off like control surfaces and certain panels and use Tamiya clears to further shade over those highlighted panels.
Right.
So on the tops, I'm going to use some browns and greens and blues on the green side.
Right.
And on the underside, I've got some yellows and oranges and browns. So I took one of my metal aluminum palettes and I started mixing the various, I've got a full suite of Tamiya clear colors.
Right.
So I've got my plans. I got all my formulas on my little palette and they're all dry and pretty. And now I can just, once I'm satisfied the pontoon's done, break out the Tamiya tape, start masking off some things and thinning the crap out of this stuff so I can really control the amount I'm putting down at a rate I feel I have control, and see what I can do with the gray undercoating.
Post it on the dojo. We want to see pictures.
But I think what you were alluding to, though, before I had started this underpainting, the finishing of that part of the E16, I was working on the railroad ties for the scenic base for my KV-85 in 35th scale.
Well, you weren't working on the ties on the base. You were working on spare ties, experimenting mules for the base.
For folks who have and haven't used yet or are contemplating getting those railroad tie sets, I think there's a German one and there's a Russian one. Anyway, the way they pull those details, well, how to say it, the tie has a slot in it on the tie plate, and that's a pass-through for the tooling to form the undersides of the outboard facing rail spikes, and they're really fragile. Mm-hmm. And they just pack all these things in a single bag, and disappointing percentage of those things are broken right out of the box. So I ended up with a lot of ties that I wasn't going to use. Now you could probably fix them. It'd be tedious, but it's just a pain in the rear to have to fix those. Well, I cut all the good ones out and used those. So I've got all these others that are broken. So why not? They're paint mules now. So what I did was set those up, and I went through an initial iteration of painting, experimenting to try to get the effect I wanted. Because I went out on the web and I found a color photograph or two of not just railroad tracks, but like abandoned railroad tracks, things that had not been serviced in some time. So, the tops of the rails, not only were they not shiny, they weren't new rust. They were full-blown dark brown patina.
Right.
And the ties were all bleached out, almost, ashy gray color. So that's the look I wanted for this. So my first attempt, I didn't like what I got. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do something a little different. So I've come up with my entire process to do this now, wrote it all down in my notebook, and I generated 4 ties that I'm really happy with. And I did post those on the dojo.
Yes, you did. And I'd love to see, I was campaigning behind the scenes folks for a video. I'm hoping that he'll do a video on this. And I
want to, but I'm not going to promise video.
I hear you.
That's on the list, but I don't know how much priority it has.
I understand. I understand. But it just goes back to what Steve Hustad has always talked about, how much of the time he spends modeling experimenting, not working on the actual item, in this case the base with the railroad that you're going to mount the tank on, but experimenting to get something that you like so that you can then apply it to the base that you're working on.
Well, this is probably, I've done a little bit of that since we've had him as a guest on the show several times. And talk to him at the national convention time or two. Had I gone through the effort of painting the entire tie set and rails on the base via my first attempt at what I was doing with my little paint mule ties, I'd have been really pissed off. That would have been a big do-over.
Well, rarely do you get something right the first time, right?
Yes. YouTube modelers tend to wax over that a little bit, but
and that is one of the downsides of the YouTube modeling phenomenon. Is you see a video where the presenter does it, and you don't see a mistake the whole time. He or she does the process beginning to end, and it's like voila. Whereas I guarantee you, even the best of those folks, I mean, I know from talking to Evan, where you go and the first time you try something, it doesn't work out or you don't like it. And it's a process to learn, okay, this is the process I'm going to use to make the ties come out the way I want them. And folks don't see that. And I think that can lead to frustration.
Well, I'm pleased with where I got. I think for my own taste, I feel like I nailed it.
Yeah, as long as you don't convert into a model railroader, we're all okay with it.
Well, I've been one in the past, and I still got a bunch of crap laying around here.
I know we want to prevent that from happening.
Well, Dave, that's my bench top halftime report.
All right.
Hopefully have more to report next time.
Absolutely.
Dave, it's what broke your wallet, and this segment tonight is brought to our listeners by Squadron Hobbies.
All right.
Our new sponsor and partner. Squadron Hobbies, added to the stash since 1968, Dave.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, folks, look for more cooperation between Plastic Model Mojo and Squadron Hobbies going forward. We're looking forward to that, but it's just kind of at the front end. He was at Chattanooga. I need to see him an email and see how that went, but
yes,
looking forward to it. So
yep.
Now you can take it, Dave.
All right, Mike. Did you spend all your Christmas money? Is there any left? Did you buy anything since we last talked?
Well, astute listeners will know that this is a back-to-back repeat for What Broke Your Wallet.
Yes. But that's because we all got Christmas money.
That's right. Hopefully we all did.
That's right.
I did spend it all, and I went over by $7.
All right. Well, I spent it all, and I went over. Well, I actually had some bonus money, so I would have gone over by like $13 if I didn't have some bonus points to spend.
But what did I get?
Okay.
And we talked about it last time, what we were going to get.
Yeah.
I did get my new collet chuck and collet set for the mini lathe. I'm looking forward to getting that all together. And that's proven a little more difficult than I was anticipating. It fits on the lathe real nice, but the way the 3-jaw chuck mounted on there and the way this mounts on there is, I'm going to have to come up with a little bit of a solution. And I don't mean it's not anything complicated. It's a screw size and versus the size of the screw hole kind of issue. I will have that fixed tomorrow.
Good.
But those parts are in. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to playing around with the collet set and see if it's going to help me like I think it's going to help me. The other thing I got in was an upgrade for my spray booth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've got an old North Coast Hobbies spray booth, the ones used to advertise in Fine Scale Modeler all the time.
Yep.
Kind of predate the pace. They're another, sheet metal fab shop kind of spray booth. So it's got a nice Dayton blower on it and an integrated a junction box or a receptacle box. It's got 110 outlets and a switch to turn it all on with, and just a little hard to just obsolete that because it was not an insignificant purchase, and it still works.
Right.
The issue is it was set up when I bought it in the early 90s for like these, I can't remember who made them, GE probably, these stick lights.
Yep.
It was the whole thing was disposable. It was a fixture that you could not change the bulb in. You put up these sticky tape or screwed in mounting clips under your cabinets or wherever you wanted it. And you just snap this thing in place. It had the cable and the switch already on it. Well, those aren't available anymore.
Right.
And
because they weren't the greatest technology.
They weren't the greatest to begin with. Yeah. And of the two that it came with, I've only got one left, and it's got a lot of UV degradation. It's all yellow and it's dingy looking. And I just didn't want to put those kind of lights back in it. So I bought one of these LED strip light kits.
Right.
And a power supply to drive it. And I took them to work and hooked them up to the power supply and turned them on. And yeah, it's going to be a huge upgrade. I've got the color rendering index on these things is way up in the range where you'd want it to be for a color match. And the air booth might be so bright, I got to wear shades, man.
There you go.
Looking forward to getting that integrated into the spray booth. What else?
Well, and that is a big advantage that modelers, we talk about improvements in 3D printing or in 3D CAD rendering and mold cutting and slide molding. There's been a huge step improvement with the development of LEDs in the ability for modelers to light their model rooms in a much more controlled way.
Yeah, and in a much more direct way.
Yes, resulting in less eye strain, better color rendering, and just a better ability to comfortably model under a set of lights that work, as opposed to, you know, a couple of fluorescent lights that are yellow and flickering and hanging from a thing, and the whatchamacallit is buzzing, and, you know, we've come a long way, baby.
We have. Well, the other couple of things I bought are not as sexy. I picked up some Sterilite containers like the one I've implemented at work to store various things in our lab in. They're a good size. They're shallow, but they're long and wide. All my scratch building supplies, aftermarket's going into those. Got to get them out of the cardboard boxes, Dave.
I hear you.
And finally, I got a pair of God hand nippers, finally.
Hey, you will not regret that. They are the best, and they're one of those few modeling tools that I say that when you get them and use them, it actually does improve your make a visible improvement on your modeling.
Well, we'll see. They haven't got here yet, but they should be here by the weekend.
You'll love them. You'll love them.
Well, how'd you fare at the...
Well, I had spent some money already, but I spent some more. The biggest part of which was I decided to place an order with VMS out of Poland, Vantage Modeling Supplies. Ordered items for myself, a little bit for you, and a little bit for Jim Bates, centered around their varnishes, also their photo etch primer, some of their smart mud, and of course, since I watch Uncle Night Shift's videos, I knew he had a discount code, and I went and got that. It actually saved me well more than the shipping cost for the order I placed. So the order's placed. It's just leaving Poland now, and by the time this episode drops, I'm thinking I'm probably going to have the order in hand. In addition, I got a God Hand. Speaking of God Hand, I got a God Hand mini brush. These are very fine brushes with handles that are about half the size of a normal paintbrush handle, so that, frankly, you can tuck the handle into the meat between your thumb and your forefinger, and you can hold the brush between your thumb and forefinger with it tucked back in with the back of the handle, and it gives you an amazing amount of control for painting very, very fine detail items. I've got one of these brushes that I picked up at a show on a whim, and it turned out to be really, really good, enough that I wanted another one as a backup. So I spent a little Christmas money on that. And finally, I mentioned it last time, but I'm going to mention it again because it's definitely well worth it. I picked up Dana Bell's Rivet Counter number 2. They are the float planes of the battleships and the cruisers of the U.S. fleet in the late 20s to late 30s. All of the different markings for the yellow wings, for the different aircraft that were used on U.S. battleships and cruisers. It's eye candy beyond belief. Dana Bell is a researcher's researcher. If he writes something in a book, you can take it to the bank that is what was. His level of research is impeccable. And he's also one of these researchers who will tell you, this is what I think, but I don't know. We don't have enough evidence. And that level of honesty tells you you're dealing with somebody who is a good researcher. So I spent some money. I'm now funds exhausted. We've got a couple of shows coming up. We'll see what happens when we go to those shows, man.
You have to get back into old Dave mode because you were kind of kid happy at the last couple.
That's right. Mike, we're here at the end of the episode. I assume that your Russell's Reserve was as fantastic as it always is.
It was. It's about not quite a double, 1.5. It was a good pour. It was very tasty, but it'll be a while before I get any more because I still got some stuff I got for Christmas hanging around in good quantity. But Russell's Reserve 10-year, for the price, it's a really good 10-year bourbon. Highly recommended.
Voodoo Ranger Imperial IPA, as always, very good. These beer straws that my daughter got me for Christmas, they work really well. Placed into a warm beer or room temperature beer, renders the beer that comes out just the right temperature for me. I'll try and find a link to them and put them in the show notes. But good beer, good modeling fluid, good gift. Thank you, eldest daughter. Mike, we're here at the very end. You got some shout outs for the episode?
I do, Dave. I want to shout out Mark Grant, Robert Burnside, and Matt Dyer. These three gentlemen have chosen to support Plastic Model Mojo through their generosity, and we really appreciate it. We've got several ways you can do that if you'd like to join the ranks of Mark, Matt, and Robert. You can do so through Patreon, or you can do so through PayPal, and even buy me a coffee. We're adding these links to the show notes now, so if you go to the show notes for this episode, www.plasticmodelmojo.com, and just go to the latest episode, and the show notes will be there, and there'll be links to support the show. You'll find links to Patreon, PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, and our merchandise store. And there's 4 ways there that you can help support Plastic Model Mojo in our endeavors in 2024. So Mark, Robert, and Matt, thank you very much. We do appreciate all the financial help. You guys make bringing this show to the masses a lot easier and a lot more comfortable for us. So thank you very much.
Yes, I want to add my thanks, and we've got some big plans for 2024. Mike and I have been talking about these, so your support is eminently vital in making those plans happen. So thank you very, very much. I've got a shout out to somebody you mentioned earlier in the episode, Mark Doremus. Mark, we're thinking about you, and hopefully you'll listen to this episode, and hopefully it will bring you some joy and relaxation.
And good luck getting it all put back together, man.
Amen. I've got one other shout out. Do you have one?
I do not.
Okay, my last shout out is to our local club, the Military Modelers Club of Louisville. I retired as club secretary this December. They presented me with a very nice plaque that I need to post a picture of in the dojo. Guys, it was very much appreciated, and my time acting as the secretary to the club has been wonderful, and one of the prouder things I've done. So thank you very much for the recognition.
And I got time for some really killer show notes.
That's right.
Well, Dave, we're at the end of this now.
Yes, we are.
As we always say,
so many kids.
So little time, Dave. We'll catch you next time for episode 108, folks.